Grace and peace. Welcome to another episode of the TBT Show.
We're coming in hot. We're coming in hot.
This is my friend and brother. Well, let me just say, today he's not my friend and brother. Today he's my co-host.
Y'all came in, okay, and we got started before we started rolling. I just want you to know. So we're coming in hot today. Moten's not happy with me.
So, man, somebody, and usually I say don't email me. Somebody please email Shawn. Please help him out. He's lost. He's a lost cause. Hey, we're gonna get into some stuff today. But please, if you help me, help your boy. Somebody please email Shawn and send him in the right direction. I'm trying to raise him in the way that he should go. And when he's older, he won't depart from it. He's not comprehending. Hey, listen, it's great to have you guys with us again this week. We had some pre-show discussion, and I'm gonna get back into it because I want somebody else to help me get Shawn on the straight and narrow. But again, episode 21. Thank you guys so much for being with us on this journey. And again, I'm asking you share, subscribe, whatever it is, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, whether you're on YouTube. Please let us know that the content is helping. And let's increase our platform. Help us do that as we try to get these things out. Listen, okay, so this week I'm gonna let Shawn guide what direction we go in, and then I'm trying to set him right.
Guide me over.
Yeah, I'm trying to set him right. Y'all, please help me.
All right, so first of all, we want to pick up the conversation last episode. We got off into a conversation about BLM, Black Lives Matter, not the statement but the structure, the organization, and they are going through some issues right now. Number one, you have the Global Network Foundation that's being sued by BLM grassroots. So the House is divided. You got 3 people that founded it. They're out. You got 3 people that are now board members. One of the board members is accused of siphoning off, stealing $10 million out of the BLM coffers. And now you have BLM grassroots, which is the on the ground chapters are suing, and it's a whole thing. One of the questions that came up last episode was the founding principles of Black Lives Matter that you cannot find anymore on their website. But the internet never forgets.
Yeah.
So I was able to find in the University of Southern California an archive of the guiding principles. And I want to point out these guiding principles and some things that you would probably think are there, but that are missing. Okay. So, I just posed a question. All right. So Black Lives Matter, you're familiar with. What are some things you would imagine were included in their guiding principles?
Some things that...
What would you imagine that were in the 13 guiding principles of Black Lives Matter?
I'm sure it would be principles to support Black Lives Matter. I know they came in, I can't remember if it was right before or right after the Ferguson thing. So I know police brutality against Black people has to be one of them. I would assume...
Let's start right there.
Okay.
Let's start right there.
Okay.
So one of the guiding principles is restorative justice.
Okay.
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 So when I click on restorative justice, I'm going to read to you the paragraph that they have under that heading. You think that would cover the police part, right?
Okay.
We're committed to collectively, lovingly, and courageously working vigorously for freedom and justice for Black people and by extension all people. As we forge our path, we intentionally build and nurture a beloved community that is bonded together through beautiful struggle that is restorative, not depleting.
Okay.
Okay. Nothing about police brutality.
So, okay, okay. You got to help me. I don't see where you're going. So, because somebody can't articulate what they mean.
I'm just saying. So here's all 13, rapid fire.
Okay.
But I just, because I was looking for something about police brutality, because that's what we know them as. That's how they came into the cultural conversation.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
Black families, Black villages, Black women, collective value, diversity, empathy, globalism, intergenerational, loving engagement, queer affirming, restorative justice, transgender affirming, unapologetically Black. So the original foundation, the 13 guiding principles of BLM have been read in your hearing.
Okay.
Now, one thing that I find interesting is that we have the first 3 are all Black. Black family.
Mm-hmm.
We're committed to making our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. We are committed to dismantling the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts, that require them to mother in private, even as they participate in justice work.
Okay.
Black families.
Okay.
Black villages. We are committed to disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another and especially our children to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Last one.
That's vague, but okay. Again, bad articulation.
I'm reporting.
Okay,
I'm reporting.
Okay.
I'm not commenting.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's vague. That's bad articulation.
I get it.
But again,
I want to tackle these first 3.
Okay.
And then we can go from there. Okay. Black women, because these are the only 3 Black things. Unapologetically Black at the very end. But Black women, we are committed to building a Black women affirming space free from sexism, misogyny, and male-centeredness.
Okay.
Black families.
Okay.
Black villages, Black women. I ask for Black Lives Matter. For the proponents, do Black men's lives matter to BLM when everything about what they have set up is anti-Black male unless it's a dying Black male?
Okay. So this is a yoga stretch. This is a yoga stretch. Cause again, we're talking about like the premise of how they started. First of all, half of that is bad articulation and it's who started it. Right?
Well,
so women started it.
Mm-hmm.
So of course the bend is going to be toward women. And I get it. I mean, I get it, but it's not anti-Black male. How
it's not anti. Okay. Let me refresh your memory. Okay. We are committed to making our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. This is under Black families. This is the first thing I read.
Okay.
We are committed to dismantling the patriarchal practice.
Okay.
Down with the patriarchy. That's men.
Oh, okay.
Men are patriarchs. That requires mother to work double shifts, require them to mother in private even as they participate.
Exactly. After the comma, keep it, because again,
no, after the comma, but
the patriarchal practice of,
of what?
Of whatever it read, however jacked up it read.
But it just says that requires mothers to work double shifts.
So whatever practice in the missing father in the home, which is, and I get.
But they said no. They can't. You can't take that because they said we're committing to dismantling the nuclear family.
That requires a woman to work double shifts.
No. Okay, so let me go back. Let me go back to the other one where they just say it flat out, and there's no other We're committed to disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, and especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. So there is no man here.
Parents?
But notice how carefully they describe mothers, parents, and children, because it's anti-man.
Okay,
the reason you say, you
see why I say this is nitpicking, right?
No, it's not nitpicking.
It's worded jacked up. I'll agree.
No. It's worded according to the agenda. Do you know the 2 out of the 3 founders of BLM? Okay, They're Marxists. They admit flat out to being trained Marxists. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So they are trained to subvert in society. They don't like capitalism. They don't like men. And I'm not saying sexually. They don't like the idea of a man. They don't like the idea of you or me. Does that make sense? We're the antithesis, because what they're trying to do is dismantle the idea of male headship, complementary with a wife in the home, and together them governing children. They said they want to dismantle the nuclear family. No, I'm not. I'm reading out of it.
Okay.
This is exegesis. I'm drawing out of the text.
Okay, so why, if that is the case,
which it is,
why is it when they have issues and they're about to mobilize, you know, the very first phone call they make as an organization?
No, I don't, because I'm not
Ben
there.
Crump, who's a man. Again, their personal agenda aside.
But it's not their personal agenda. This is the founding principles of an organization. If this was their personally held beliefs, that'd be one thing. I'm not reading the guiding principles of Patricia McCullers.
Okay. So
this is the guiding principles of Black Lives Matter organization. Okay. These are the people that took money. You see what I'm saying? That brought in $90 million, and they have $42 million left. And now that they're under a lawsuit from their own people, one of the board members that controls the money has never been to one Black Lives Matter protest. The person that controls the money for Black Lives Matter, Global Network Foundation, has admitted to the president of the LA chapter that they've never been to a Black Lives Matter protest. Now think about that. That'd be the equivalent of you talking to the CEO of Ford Motor Company and saying they drive a Chevy. Or they've never driven a car at all. Okay. That's the equivalent.
See, here's my issue. Because whenever there are, if it's, and I'm saying you should know this well, I would assume from a church perspective, if there's more than 5 people involved in anything, there's going to be a disagreement. I'm saying 5 people is really 2, because it's more than 2 people. Well, if it's just 2 people, there's going to be a disagreement.
Well, the disagreement is fine, but we're talking about the foundation on the direction of and people that donate time and money to them, knowingly or unknowingly. This is the vision and the values that you support.
Because of how it's worded? Like if I started,
no. It's not because of how it's worded. It's because how it's executed.
If I started a company and had to write up the foundations, there would be probably a lot of scripture in it. Not even chapter verse, but
right.
It's just because that's who I am.
Right.
I'm not mad at that. That's who they are.
So you don't think they're wrong?
They're not anti-male though. You don't think
that's anti-male?
No.
So why do they have this contempt built into organization for the Black man? Because they have
a personal contempt for the Black man.
But then that's what I'm saying.
That's their own personal thing.
But the organization, the agenda, that follows through.
Okay. So here's my question.
It flows from the founder.
I don't think one has anything to do with the other. I don't think. I think you're reading. You're reading foundational principles.
So I want you
as to how they're worded.
So I sent you the link. I want you to go ahead and click any of the guiding. Click any of them. Okay. Click any of them. Which one did you click so I can follow you? Pick any of the 13. It doesn't matter which one. Same result.
It's
so which one did you click?
Okay. It's coming up. It's coming up slow, but it's coming up.
Okay.
I just think you're reaching.
At the very top, it lists once you click through, it gives you the source. See where it says source http://blacklivesmatter.com/guiding principles. It goes to the same spot. If you click blacklivesmatter.com/guiding principles, you get error 404, page not found, because they're hiding this. The current structure and management is embarrassed by this.
Okay. I think there was a need to change and reword, and even the one we read last week, you could tell.
That's the new one. The new one was jacked up. This is worse. This is even worse. But you know what? This gives me a clear insight into the founding vision and values.
Okay, I
just gotta face it. I mean, it's there. It's incontrovertible.
So here's the one that I think you're stuck on.
Oh no, I've only dealt with the black part. Yeah. I've only dealt with the black part of Black Lives Matter.
I just think
and it seems like it's if you're anything but a heterosexual black male, they got no problem with you. If you're a black male that is, in their words, queer, black in their words, transgender male, then they got no problem with you. They have a problem with you if you're a heterosexual black man, unless you die interacting with the police so they get free camera time. That's the only use that they have.
Okay. I just think at this point,
unpopular opinion.
Okay, so here's the catcher. Because I think we're overcritical of anything that has anything black, and we're undercritical about when white folk do the same thing. I'm just critical,
period.
Because again, we'll say BLM, they messed off $10 million or $20 million, which it's wrong. I'm not saying it's not.
But individuals did that. I'm not holding that. I'm holding that accountable to the individual that took the money. I don't hold Black Lives Matter as an organization responsible. You see what I'm saying?
No,
I
now
hold
you contradicted what you said last week.
No, I'm not.
Because last week you were like, yeah, it's not what did you say? How did you?
No, I said it's a corrupt organization based on its vision and values, but people take money. And BLM is a paper person. It's an organization that is a corporate structure.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Because last week you said something's not about immediate, but it's all like because they only have 2-3 founders and all 2-3 of them misappropriated money, whatever. But again, we're talking about.
But they're still executing the vision and value. The corruption starts with the individuals that started it. Then you have corrupt people put together a corrupt organization, and it continues doing corrupt things. And then now, because of embarrassment, you take out 3 founders and you put in 3 new board members, and at least one of these board members is in hot water right now because he wrote a bunch of checks to his own consulting firm and siphoned off about $10 million. And this is the same guy that hadn't been to one BLM protest, one BLM rally, but yet he holds the purse strings. So now there's a revolt of all the local Black Lives Matter chapters because, number one, the money's getting messed up.
Right.
Number 2, he shut down all their social media. He basically locked them out of all of the social media accounts, and he has consultants that are paid to run the content on those pages. So whether it's Black Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter LA or Black Lives Matter Houston or Black Lives Matter whatever. So they now have a whole separate organization. It's like, like in wrestling, you remember when they had the big thing, they had the NWO, right? Then all of a sudden they have the black and white and they have the red and black. It's like when a church splits. You see what I'm saying? Uh-huh. You got First Church, then you got New First Church, then you got Greater First Church. You see what I'm saying? It all came out of split. Does that make sense?
Okay. So
So right now they've already split.
So because of the actions that are 1 or 2, you would call the entire.
It's not 1 or 2. It's not 1 or 2. First of all, you know that they took in $90 million and they only had 2 recorded employees. The whole structure is eaten away by consultants and all this different stuff because they had 2 people According to their federal 990 filing, they had 2 people listed as employees to take care of a $90 million operation.
Okay, let me ask you this.
You can't do that. You can't run a McDonald's with 2 people.
Would you call the American Red Cross corrupt?
I wouldn't say corrupt.
See, you wouldn't say corrupt for them.
Because what's the history of it? What are they founded on? One person in 100 years. This is actually the newest one. The 2010 Haiti earthquake. They raised $125 million that came up missing. $125 million. Yeah, they get more. So I mean, but what's the
here's
no. You're comparing.
Here's what we do.
You're comparing an example with a system. You see what I'm saying? The American Red Cross. You gave me one example. How long has the American Red Cross been in existence? Okay. Let's take a look.
Let's go back to some other examples
from American Red Cross. Not another
American Red Cross.
Okay.
I brought it up because they was on I want to say Nightline, whatever it was, and this was years ago.
So they were founded in 1881, big dog. I don't know how your math is, but Black Lives Matter is
so because wait.
I'm just being serious.
So because they've been corrupt longer, they're not as corrupt as somebody who's been corrupt shorter.
Well, I'm saying on an organizational level.
Here's the issue.
On an organizational level,
it's black corruption versus white corruption.
That doesn't matter.
No, yeah, it absolutely does.
No, it doesn't.
Because
who took the money?
When white
did American Red Cross take the money as an organization, or did someone that was in control of the money siphon it off?
What difference does it make?
Makes a huge difference. It goes from it being a corporate action to individual action. Because in Black Lives Matter, these individuals took this money.
Individuals took it from American Red Cross.
I get it, and I'm saying they're corrupt individually because they took this money. The organization is corrupt collectively because of its vision and values, which comes from the founders. So the American Red Cross from Jump Street, if we compared their founding principles, what do you think we'd find?
I mean, the difference is the American Red Cross is probably going to tell you what you want to hear. While BLM, they gave it what it was. Yeah, they didn't highlight fathers, but when they say parents, fathers aren't included.
But no, because fathers wouldn't be included. Because here's the deal: either A, don't say. This is how I know grammatically. Okay, all you have to do is just read the plain reading of the text. I know you're familiar. The plain reading of the text. If you say parents, you don't have to say mothers or fathers. But if you specify mothers, that's at the exclusion of fathers. You specify the collective term and the individual term for only one sex. So that means you're intentionally using those words to exclude the father. Because otherwise you could say mothers and fathers, or you just say parents, but you intentionally worded it to leave out fathers.
Yeah.
Say it without saying it. So basically, they're saying it without saying it. In exclusion.
This is nitpicking.
It's not nitpicking.
It's nitpicking.
No, but tell me, wouldn't it be easier to just say mothers and fathers or just say parents?
I just said whoever wrote it, it's worded bad.
No, but that's the problem. You think it's worded bad because they had other intentions. It's worded well for what they wanted to communicate. I'm giving them a plain, simple reading of the text, and a plain, clear reading of their words means what I'm saying that it means. Does that make sense? Because otherwise, in order to communicate about mothers and fathers, you could have said it that way, or you could have just said parents and children. But you intentionally described everybody but a heterosexual man, and you're specifically referring to the black community. So that means that the black man is left out of BLM in terms of their vision of the family.
Yeah,
Where's Waldo?
I think this is just another, but here, that's what we do.
Where's Waldo?
That's what we do. Hey, every other culture can exercise some form of unity, even if there's some disagreement. But when it comes to
this isn't a black issue.
Kissed by mother's son,
this isn't a black issue. This just so happens to be an organization that has self-described themselves as Black Lives Matter. You could put blank and put any blank in their Lives Matter, and you put the same words in here and just change black to white, black to Latino, black to Asian. I still have the same problem because the black part's not the problem.
No, it actually is the main part of the problem. That's us. That's what we do. Okay.
Right. But what I'm saying is that
so here's my
problem. I don't have this is something that happens in the black community because what happens is that you have others that try to hijack our issues or that try to hijack our methods. Does that make sense? The black civil rights movement gets copied and co-opted for other agendas all the time. And people try to copy and paste their issues and agenda onto black civil rights.
Black civil rights was a copy of something. Half of what Martin Luther King said often
techniques, but
was Gandhi.
Techniques.
I mean, that's all
that's
it is.
Different. Like, no, but this isn't techniques.
So the patent doesn't necessarily.
Technique is protest. Technique is nonviolent. Technique is fasting. Technique is strikes. This isn't technique. This is vision. This is mission. You see what I'm saying? This is a whole separate set than tools and techniques.
So
this is vision and value.
Bottom line, here's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't agree wholeheartedly with everything that.
Well, it's foundational principles, bro. I mean,
okay. Because you don't agree with the foundational principles of the people that started it. Now the whole house is no good.
Well, how can two walk together unless they agree?
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
Because here's the deal.
So let's just say, no, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yeah.
So say you had a heart issue.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid, hope it never happens. Say you had a heart issue,
mm-hmm.
and the best doctor that was near,
mm-hmm.
best cardiologist
mm-hmm.
was an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Would you let him do heart surgery?
If he's the best, he's the best. But I'm paying him for a service. That's different.
What does their personal beliefs
because
to do?
Is because their personal beliefs translate into how they behave. Everything that they do is from the thrust of trying to tear me down as a heterosexual black man. Does that make sense? Because they're trying to promote things that are in opposition to me. This atheist heart surgeon is going to apply his knowledge, skill, and ability to hopefully save my life. And God can use him as an instrument. Does that make sense?
But he can't use BLM.
I'm not saying he can't use BLM. I'm not saying there can't be good done. What I'm saying is that this particular organization was founded on particular principles that they're telling you we are against the black man, specifically husbands and fathers that are heterosexual.
See them run to the aid.
Well, they run to the best people that can help them. So you're equating them seeking out professional advice the same way that, if you or I needed a health professional, a doctor, they need a lawyer, they need an accountant. You go for whoever is the best fit for what you need. Does that make sense? Now, it's a bonus if you agree ideologically. But what I'm saying is that from their ideology, you can understand their tactics and what they're trying to accomplish. Does that make sense? They're trying to accomplish the subversion of the black family. They're trying to extract. Yes. I mean, what else do you call that?
Okay. You're reading from a paper. I'm talking about inaction. This is the same organization that ran to the aid of Trayvon's mother and father.
I get that, but that's the lightning rod that got them all the money.
So now you're interpreting they did it, but they really didn't mean it. They just did so they can get more money.
No. What I'm saying is because the Global Network Foundation is just a holding place. You gather all the money and they give out grants, this, that, third. They fund the local grassroots efforts. Does that make sense? And so I'm not saying that there's no good that could have been done. Does that make sense? In terms of, I know they make grants to support families that lose, say, for instance, someone that is a victim of police violence. They die and they were the breadwinner. Black Lives Matter would give them money to support them, which I think is a good work. I'm not saying they're devoid, but a broken clock is even right twice a day. You see what I'm saying?
So you would have to agree with me.
What I'm saying is my issue number one is just in terms of vision and values. It's starting off, in my opinion, from my position, it's in opposition to me and people like me. So I mean, you don't want me to come to the party because I'm a hindrance to your idea of utopia. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does not. This is black folk. This is what black folk do.
Which is what?
A house on fire. I ain't gonna put it out. But the minute somebody shows up to put it out, why they using that water hose? If it was me, I wouldn't use that water hose. Why are you putting the fire out over there?
But
that's what we do.
Last episode, I'm like, show me the work.
You just admitted you know the work.
No, I'm talking about now. So you had all this, because here's the problem. Now the drain is trickling off. You don't have the big lightning rod media events to help gin up your support. Mm-hmm. So now the money's going down. Mm-hmm. On the way down, it's getting mismanaged and it's getting stolen.
Hey, there is, and I said it last week, there's mismanagement
everywhere.
In a lot of
organizations. But what was up for discussion last week?
Throw the baby out with the.
What was up for discussion? Here's the deal, and then so you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but competent people were not put in charge of it, and it's going to get worse. And now you have a schism in the organization where you have the true believers that are the grassroots people. They're like, hey, we're the ones that are on the ground, and which I have more respect for those people that they may not share in all this, but that's the flag that they're waving. Does that make sense? But at least they're the people that are on the ground in the community trying to do the work. But the people in control of the money are siphoning it off through consultants and this and that and all that different stuff to enrich themselves personally.
Okay.
And the thing is that I understand that this type of corruption happens in all kinds of different areas all over the place, but the topic of discussion was Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, because
I was just following up
because as black folk, we're not going to look at with a critical eye when they do something.
But we look at a critical eye. So like anybody else would get the same treatment from me. They would get the same analysis from me. They would get the same criticism from me. The topic of the day, you see what I'm saying, is Black Lives Matter. Now any analysis, any other, corruption analysis you want to go to, no problem. Bring it to the platform and let's go. But I'm just giving a follow up. We got onto it last week, and I'm saying, hey, I found the information, so that way I can put it before you.
About it.
So let's talk about it. That's it. And one other thing, and I'm done, is that also on the opposite end where you say, oh, this is what black folk do, when you have people that do think critically, them having standards for who they lend their support to should not be viewed negatively. We should have standards for those that we support and those that are trying to do work in the community.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't
just be like, okay, well, you're trying to do something, so go ahead and do whatever you want by any means or methods.
We shouldn't have standards. Well, I put it like this. The people that are involved that are going to do anything at all shouldn't have standards. But the people that are going to sit in their rocking chair, they are,
should have standards. People that are going to take action.
Those that are going to take action to help somebody,
right?
You could have some standards.
There you go.
But if you ain't going to help nobody do nothing,
right?
Shut up.
I agree, 100%.
And that's what we do. That's why our culture can't get ahead because.
Well, I would argue our culture can't get ahead is because we allow these type of, you know, people, the entertainers, to eat away at the moral fabric of the family, and you have a downward spiral because you know, we actually had more Black wealth prior to civil rights. Black families were on a upswing trajectory in terms of their actual wealth prior to civil rights. Even though they were more oppressed, even though all these different things, they were actually, as households, doing better in terms of wealth than they are now. Now it's going the opposite direction.
I mean, that's for a lot of different reasons. And, you know,
I mean, adjusted for inflation, because if we look at the numbers,
talking about inflation. You're talking about.
What I'm saying is adjusted for inflation, because you can't just look at the numbers, because the numbers now would be higher, but the money's not worth the same amount of money.
And you're also talking about spheres and careers that were popular then and even after then that no longer exist.
Correct.
So yeah,
well, we have to compete just like they had to compete in their markets, just like we got to compete in our markets. Because also back then they didn't have these technology. They didn't have these opportunities where someone could work for Tesla or Uber or, you know, all these other multinational companies. So we got to call it even. Okay. Yeah. It's like, look, I understand we have stuff that they don't have, but also they had stuff that we don't have now. Stuff that we've given away.
It's like top heavy. So, and that's all I mean, because I don't think money has changed in that. It's just that those on top are really, really on top. And those that are on the bottom are really, really on the bottom. When in my father's, you know, in his lifetime, there was Umco Steel and Cameron Iron and Miss Bears, where you know, a man with maybe some education or, you know, military background could go and make $150,000 a year, $100,000 a year. Now those careers no longer exist, so either you got all of the money or none of the money. And we don't have, that's the reason there's no middle class anymore, because of, you know, that. So again, that's a, you know, a whole nother ball of wax. And I wouldn't necessarily equate it to, you know, just that. But my thing is, when we are critical of those that are doing, and nobody's going to do anything exactly the way you would do it. If the standard is what you would want done, they'll never meet that standard. I mean, if you get somebody who's involved, who's active, who's trying to do something. Now, again, I've given the BLM, but if they misappropriate my $25, I'm not tripping.
Well, the average donation to BLM is like $34.06. That's another thing that I, you know, came across. So it's a lot of little donations, you know. But what I'm saying is that it became also like a fad. Does that make sense? Not for Black people. Black people were supporting the struggle. Does that make sense? But you had a lot of white and non-Black donations that satisfied their white guilt.
Right.
That's like, you see what I'm saying? That it's like, oh, well, I support BLM. They could tell people, you know, so it was almost kind of like a little merit badge. Does that make sense? Right. And there's a lot of money and corporate money that came in to BLM. Does that make sense?
Right.
But on the wealth point, there's a statistic, and this is a statistic that I was referring to. I have the chart in front of me now. So the way they calculate this was the gap between Black and white wealth. Okay, so it's expressed as a percentage of Black wealth to white wealth on an average household basis. Okay, currently, right now, Black Americans now have 1/6 the wealth of white Americans on average. Does that make sense? Which is the lowest since like the 80s. It was at its height where it was probably half in 1960. That was the height of the closest gap between Black wealth and white wealth.
I can see that.
And so from 1960, it goes down. Man, we had a bad decade.
But it's okay.
In the 70s is terrible.
Because I don't think it's as much as So that number
the low point was like 1990.
So that number is based on two things: Black people not moving forward in financial earnings, and then white people making more in financial
Correct.
earnings. So again, like you're talking about back in the day, even companies that were doing well, like your Kroger's or something like that. CEO was making what, $1 million, and that was like he's national, so it's like. But now you talking about Kroger CEO, what you think you're making? 100 million?
Something nasty. So
they're making more. We're making the same or less. So yeah, that gap is going to be, more now. And again, there's a lot of factors that play into that.
I get that, but part of it is that we spend money on stupid stuff.
I mean, that's even then that was the case.
What, they had some Jordans out in the 50s?
They spent money on some things that maybe it wasn't Jay's, but it was like, again, but that's just us, because even that, I believe, is a part of self-hate. So now you have to earn the love and respect of others. So how do you do it? You wear what they wear. You drive what they drive. Even if you got to not eat, you want to live where they live. You're saying,
being responsible with your finances. You see what I'm saying? We were better at it back then. It's just flat out.
It's just different. I think it's the same. It's just different.
It's not the same because the numbers are the result is different. But also, you notice this same downward trajectory. It goes down with collapse in morals. Like, we could compare a bunch of charts and we're going to see that same downward trajectory. Does that make sense? And if we're not careful, and we're not careful about supporting Black men and supporting Black men being heads of household and being pillars in the community, and instead of this fast life type situation where everybody wants to be a rapper, entertainer. Does that make sense? Everybody's trying to finesse. Everybody's trying to live this type of life that you know what I'm saying?
Financially,
fake rich,
that's the culture. Morally, that's the culture. Even I don't even think there's and I know people disagree. There's not a plot to destroy like Black men. So in an attempt to get the bag, because now that's what everyone wants. In an attempt to get the bag, how else do you do it? How else do you drive a Bentley and live the life? Even you have, and if there is a plot to destroy Black men, I don't think it comes from people like that. I think it comes from the average, everyday American Black woman who teaches her daughter, don't marry him unless he makes $100,000 a year. And so now, if you're a young Black man, how do you get to 100K?
Well, but this is the false.
So now
narrative.
You want to play so now you got to be an athlete. You got to be.
No, you don't have to. The problem, first of all, why does everybody have to be there? Some people are gonna make it. Some people are not.
Here's
the problem. The problem was that the average guy back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, the average Black man, okay, had a wife, family, so on and so forth. Does that make sense? There was no thrust that he had to be the entertainer, the movie star.
Because the average Black woman was okay with being married to the average Black man.
Right. And that's my point. So is that now you have the dissatisfaction because you have self-hate. That's self-hate.
You want to be like them.
Yeah.
Because you don't appreciate who you are.
Correct.
So in an attempt to be like them, you want to have what they have. You see Kim Kardashian.
When you say them, are you saying white people?
I'm saying white.
Or you're saying the people that are in a certain socioeconomic status?
Look, I don't care how much money I have. There's certain things I am and not going to do.
Right.
I could be a billionaire. I'm not spending no $300,000 on no car. I don't care. It got an engine and some wheels, and I'm not never. So, again, when you know who you are and you appreciate yourself and who you are, who God has created you to be, and you're not trying to be like the Joneses, whoever the Joneses are. And I believe to our culture, the Joneses are white folk. And you're trying to be like them, So you end up doing what they do, and you don't realize the white people that really made it, the white people that they can go years without money and they'll be fine. The Bill Gates of the world, they don't drive $300,000 cars. They don't live like. Again, you're trying to dress yourself up to be like something else.
And that's the thing. Because I've referred, I think, on the platform to the meme that I saw where you have the rappers with all the chains and the Cuban links and all the different stuff, and you got a picture of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett looking like they just came straight out of Costco. But I think part of it is that there really is a coordinated effort. You have social media sites that want to keep you on the social media sites, and what do? They show you a lifestyle, and then your passions are excited. Does that make sense? Because once you see it, you want to be it. Does that make sense? So you see this image of this is what somebody that's killing it as a man, this is what they're doing. I want to be there, which is no problem. Ambition's good. I think that's great.
Right.
But also at the same time, you still got to live where you are. Does that make sense?
Right.
Young ladies, they see, okay, look, wow, these are the girls that are getting the most attention from what they perceive to be the best men. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I need to do these different things. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I need to, because I see it, I want to be it. Now that I see it, I want to be it. And so now you have average, ordinary, everyday people that are spending money they don't have to impress people they don't know. Does that make sense? In some cases that they're mutilating their bodies with surgery. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And all these different things in the pursuit of, the hopeful possibility.
Something you don't even want genuinely.
Right.
And it's a shame that we're raising a culture to climb the ladder of success. I tell my boys all the time, you don't want to get to the top of the ladder to find out your ladder was on the wrong building.
Mm-hmm.
What is success?
Right.
And that's why I'm real big on supporting each other in efforts in veins and venues. Because again, all we have is each other. Now, It's not going to be the way I would do it. It's not going to be built the exact way. But when we get back to the point of where we're supporting each other and pushing each other, making it means nothing if you don't reach back and help somebody else.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. So is BLM created perfectly? No. Do they have jacked up, fundamental principles? Probably. But if I'm not pushing BLM, who am I pushing? If I'm not supporting NAACP, who am I supporting? And that's how we get trapped. Because now that wheel don't look the way I want it to look. So let me create my own wheel. So now we got black folk, everybody got their own thing and nobody's supporting anybody else's thing. Like, I didn't have the vision for BLM. She had the vision. Whoever had the vision for BLM was great in its inception, something that we needed, something a little bit more aggressive than NAACP. Okay, let's do it. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be right? Not all the time. But I'd rather something out there that's not done 100% than nothing at all. So, I mean.
Yeah, I personally feel like at the end of the day, it'll be a moot point because it will go the way of Occupy Wall Street. It's not built to last.
Even that, because it wasn't supported. Like we don't support each other, and that's
I agree. But what I'm saying is that I think it's very apparent that this particular institution of Black Lives Matter, is very different than just a statement, and it was set up with a lot of underlying things that I think are going to cause people to not support them because I think they're trying to put too many things in the basket.
Hey, it's the same thing happened during civil rights.
They tried to put too many things during it's like, hey, if you just stuck to the title, just stick to Black Lives Matter. But you tried to force feed, okay, we got this Black Lives Matter thing. Okay, well, let's throw Marxism in there, globalism in there. Let's throw in
anti-capitalism,
Right, which is Marxism. Let's throw in, the queer affirmation. Let's throw in the transgender affirmation. Let's throw in all this different stuff.
If you open your eyes, that's every organization in this culture.
But it's not as a foundation principle. It's as political cover, because they don't want to face the wrath of the alphabet people. Does that make sense? The alphabet mafia. So what happens is that for 1 month out of the year, we see a bunch of colors. 11 months out of the year, SOP, standard operating procedure. Because all it is a pacifier. Okay, yeah. It's like rocking a baby to sleep. You see what I'm saying? The baby wakes up crying, all that different stuff. They cry in June, all this different stuff. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're smart. You is smart. You is kind. You is important. Back in the crib. Go to sleep. They go to sleep for 11 months. They wake up. Oh, yeah, it's that time again. Okay. You is smart. You is kind. You is important. Back to sleep. I mean. And they do the same thing to us. They do the same thing to black people every year. All of a sudden, we got all these black programs, this, that, the third, everywhere. Hey. And what is it? Take you out the crib. You're crying. Take you out the crib. You is smart. You is kind. You is important.
Hey, go
back to sleep.
Hey, every day is Black History Month for me.
There you go.
It ain't. But I mean, but again, I get it. I get it.
I just feel
there's a greater need for us to support than there is for us to be critical.
And here's the deal. Why is it that you think? Get ready for email. So why is it that you think people more vigorously support Black Lives Matter, this organization that we can agree has a lot of issues? Does that make sense? We may differ on what the implications of that corruption and those problems are, but we can agree that it is, people, fickle, finite, flawed.
Has some issues like every organization.
Okay. Right? Now, why do you think it is that people so vigorously supported Black Lives Matter, but yet they found the money for Black Lives Matter, but they didn't find it for the church?
Because Black Lives Matter was doing something.
There's churches that are out there doing something.
By and large. And again,
because people showed up during a pandemic to go out in a confined space. Now think about this. Mm-hmm. The issues that are had at some churches, mm-hmm. where people are still using
the pandemic
right. as an excuse for their absence. Right. Does that make sense?
Right.
But yet people sign.
Give me that old time religion. Now that we saying, give me that online religion.
So, but you had people that were going to a Black Lives Matter protest in the midst of a pandemic and breaking all the little pandemic rules to go to a Black Lives Matter protest.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
For a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But they participated in a moment, but they don't participate in the movement of the church.
Because the church is not a movement.
Well, church is people.
I mean, the church has ceased to exist to be a movement. And it's not me being critical of the church. It's me calling it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
During the push of a lot of things, the church is silent when it should be speaking. The church is still when it should be moving. And young people, and you can ask any young person, why aren't you a bigger part of the church? The first thing you're going to get from that generation is, well, what is the church doing? Outside of getting together once a week to worship.
Let me ask you this, though. Are they showing up enough to know what's going on?
I have young people that will get involved in the work stuff, but don't participate in the worship stuff.
Yes.
This generation doesn't want to.
No, that's a good observation.
They want to see God in flesh. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear about on Sunday mornings. That's for us. But they want to, because again, you got to. I mean, I grew up in church. I'm a church boy. I honestly believe I was conceived in church. I think my mom and daddy found an old Sunday school room somewhere. I'm a church boy. All my life, know nothing else but the church.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that we did in the 80s, we stopped doing them.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell our church, because we're still young, we're still babies. I tell our church all the time, when the church starts, they're risk takers. We ain't got nothing to lose. We ain't been here before. We don't go by that old, black folk rule. We always do it this way.
Right.
We ain't got
this
that.
how we do it because this is the way we always done it. Yeah.
We ain't got that.
Dangerous
we ain't got
phrase.
So we risk takers. Like, hey, Pastor, I want to do this. Like, okay, let's try it. Let's see what works. Like, okay, do this different, do that. Let's try and see what you're risk takers. But after you've acquired some things, now you're going from being a risk taker to a caretaker. You don't want to lose members, so let's not say that.
That's happened with Black Lives Matter too. Because now, before they were grassroots, they were nimble, they were quick, they could boom, boom, boom on with this city, this city, this city, this city. Now you got consultants and executives and payrolls and all these other commitments. Now all of a sudden you're a giant, and so now in trying to take care, you lose momentum. You stop doing the stuff that got you to where you are. Yeah. If you go from being a risk taker to a caretaker and lose momentum, you end up being an undertaker. There are a lot of churches. Yeah, or me and the undertaker. You die. There are a lot of churches that had to bury the church in the pandemic because they stopped moving years before. And I mean, I get it. So people get a BLM and they don't get a church because BLM is at least doing something where the church isn't. I honestly feel like the biggest failure in our community is the church, because the church has the greatest opportunity to reach every generation, every genre of people. The church has the ability to reach people that BLM can't reach. But BLM is doing something where the church isn't. Yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. I also think another thing is that people viewed BLM as a hallmark, like a cultural moment. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I was there. You know what I'm saying? That type of deal. Right. I want to be able to tell my grandkids that, oh yeah, grandpa, grandma. Yeah. We were. When they do the movie about the the Pettis Bridge or whatever. Right. Yeah. That was me. Yeah, I was there. I still got my shoes from when we walked across. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That type of deal. I think that was one thing. I think another thing is that since it's not the church, it does not place any moral claims on you. So there's no expectation. There's really no accountability other than feed or finances. Right. So it's easy to participate with BLM because once you donate, so you lend your feet or you lend your finances, or you show up, you lend your feet. Does that make sense? Then you've participated and you can say, I supported Black Lives Matter. Does that make sense? Now here's the deal. And then you can go home and you're done. But forever you can say I supported Black Lives Matter. And so that, because I haven't heard anything in a while as far as their activities. Does that make sense? See, but that's on. I went to the Houston page and their social media hadn't been active in over a year. Does that make sense? See, okay. Black Lives Matter needs moments. And that's the problem. They need, and that's what I was saying before, they need lightning rod moments in order, because they don't really do anything where it's like, okay, let's go to the BLM office and what's a day? It's like, it functions around crises. Does that make sense? Right. So if there's not a black man dying in an interaction with the police, they don't have nothing to do. What do they do? And I think they do other stuff. So I know they do other stuff. But what I'm saying, moments to create momentum. But that's like clear. Right. That's what gets them to create rejuvenated. You see what I'm saying? Here's the issue though, and this is why I put a lot of our cultural failure on the church. Black Lives Matter needs moments to create momentum. The church needs momentum to create moments. Like, if the church just gets to going, moments will happen where people I got to be involved in that. I got to, I got to roll up my sleeves. I got to do something. Hey, what can I do? Peter proved it. Momentum will make people say, "Man, what should we do?" But when you're not doing anything, I don't have nothing to help you with. Right. Well, I mean, it's a law of inertia. An object at rest will stay at rest until an outside force is exerted upon it. And this is just physics, you know?